Like if you wanted to humanize me.
Really humanize you.
Yeah.
Why do you put your fingers in all the jars?
So this podcast, essentially, George has come on, my right-hand man, video editor. He's coming on. We're doing a bit of a different sort of podcast today where he's going to lead it.
I'll do my best to lead it, yeah.
He's going to do his best to lead it. He's going to ask some questions of what people have sort of in our community ask, and people ask him, and we're just going to get into some deep combos and just
maybe
really
just some curious Corey questions and
see how we go from there.
Maybe people will see you through a different lens. Who knows?
Who knows? So I'm going to pass the mic over to you and let you go. Because you see what, sorry?
I see you through a different lens, I think, to most people, because I've known, especially in this world, I've known you for a long time before all of this. So it's like, it's been super crazy to see your growth initially and then to jump in, dive in and come along for the journey.
You going to expose me, bro?
Not really. Like I put up on my story the other day, like just in case anyone forgot how funny Corey is. You know what I mean? Like, because people forget that you're just a fun, like 30-year-old dude that likes to have fun. Like you were saying last night at dinner, just having fun with everything, and like using your skills for everything and using your acting skills. Like how many people actually know that you're a really good actor? Not many people, right?
Good point.
That you can cry on cue, which was quite uncomfortable for me at dinner last night, but it was really cool to see. I'm trying to think like what to ask you. What would people really, really like to know?
Well, recently we sort of figured out that I've been a robot.
Well, not so much recently, but over the last year, you've gone through a journey from like starting a business, maybe turning somewhat robotic, content, robotic, ads, robotic, to now being so heart-led that it's like a no-brainer for people to jump on and start working with you, or just get in the community, or start following you, or start listening to the podcast and stuff.
Yeah. What do you think?
You ask a couple questions, I might think of.
What do you think was some of the worst stuff? You know, when you were working with me, we were like, "Oh, this is like some demons." Because I think it's like relatable when you're like, you know, when we're like full business focused. I was so business focused because I was like, we've got to make it. I like summoned a demon to do so. I'll talk about the exorcism that I had at some point during this podcast.
Yeah,
but
at some point
during this podcast, it was a real exorcism, guys. But before
you talk
that,
about on your stories. So like, what's some of the worst parts about working with you when you were robotic? Or something like
even
that?
still, like, this is just like, you know, it's good feedback because it reminds you of like, oh, that's where I was. And this is like recent too, guys.
Yeah, well, it's only, like a year isn't that long in the whole journey. And we just celebrated our 1 year of working together, which was incredible. Corey took me out for a dinner and it was like really hard for me to receive and just sit there and be like, wow, this is like our life now. So yeah, that was really cool. But I think throughout the last year, like you've really challenged me with feedback and all that kind of stuff. And I think the way you delivered it was different when you were more robotic. When you were like robot Corey, you were like, oh, it just needs to do this, this and this. And I'm like sitting there like, 1, that's annoying. 2, why? And then 3, how do I do it? Whereas now, if you give me feedback, you're like, oh, bro, this is sick, but it would be better if you did this because this, and this is how people are going to be affected by it, like this. And I'm like, oh, I get it. But before that, it was just like, oh, bro, no, that needs to be different. This is that. You would snatch things from me. You would take things and you'd just take over. And I'll be like, I'm not learning. I'm just sitting here. And
I still snatch things.
You still snatch things. I had to tell Corey off the other night. He was like really tired after Slipknot. And we were trying to find our way through Brisbane. And I was like looking at the maps. And Corey's just like, took my phone. This is how you do it, bro. And I was just like.
Well, that's what happens when you're obsessed with control.
But yeah, I literally said to you, I was like, you really, really just triggered me then. And Corey's whole demeanor changed. He was just like, oh, I'm so sorry, bro. Which you're really good at like being aware of now. But like in the moment of control, it's pretty hectic. But that has just become like less and less of a thing over the last year, where you've gone through like, even just the last month, man, like you're doing all that personal development stuff. Like I said to you, and I mean it, like it's inspiring to see like a leader in this space. This is cutting out. Like a leader in this space and like a mentor for me and a friend, like go through all of that. It's really, really cool, man. And I think a lot of people probably think that as well. Speak on behalf of everyone, man. Like that's really, really cool that you've like had the commitment to do that and been aware that it's needed to happen. It's really, really cool, man. You should be proud of yourself. You should receive that and just be like,
I am. I'm receiving it right now. I was just smiling. I was like, oh, say something else. Say something with humor. Distract the conversation. Because that like comes up sometimes when you're receiving. And yeah, I was just sat there. I was like, yep, I'm gonna take this in.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that we talk about a lot, right? In our community, in our education, and what we do with our coaching is like people just struggling to receive and celebrate themselves. Like we literally had a question. I remember in the community not long ago, someone said, how do us as men actually celebrate ourselves? Because I've never been taught how. And that fear of intimacy, of like being connected with someone and thank you. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Oh, no, this thing, and like palm things off. And then people self-sacrifice or people please or overcompensate or get angry in some other area instead of just having connection with someone. And then all they yearn for is connection. But it's like that. No, put it away. No, put it away.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that with like eye contact and stuff. Like you're getting really good at eye contact and not getting distracted. And like I said, what I say to you yesterday, like you're doing good. You know what I mean? Just like really simple. And Corey just like locked his phone on the side and just kept looking at me. He was like, thank you, bro. You know what I mean? Like the eye contact really matters. And you're right. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people, like even your best friends or family or like I'm blessed with like, you know, mum and dad that are really like connected in that way and like all my best friends and stuff. And it's like, they can receive things and you can have these like connections just via eye contact talking about stuff. But yeah, like a lot of people are scared to really like look at their best friends in the eye and like say something good about them or receive something that they're saying about them.
It's crazy.
It's pretty powerful. But I feel like in our community, it's becoming like a lot more normalized and all the Zoom calls and like the hot seats and stuff where we like literally force people to receive like whether they like it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so true. It's cool to see because like it's sort of like we used to explain like a soil, like a really fertile soil, but people come in like to the gym. It's like they're coming into the gym for like emotional intelligence, leadership intelligence, and they're getting exposed to all these different things. And it's like it could be difficult or challenging, like within the community, or they could be, you know, it could be really good and fun and joyful. And then they take that into the real world, and then they're like, "Why is this so easy now? Like, why is everything changing? Why is everything working for me and not against me? Like, I've got some new skills." But it was funny when you gave me a compliment. I didn't realize I needed one. I was walking to the gym and I was talking to George and I just like basically needed to dump. I was like, I've got these things in my head and I just need to tell him. And sometimes I do that.
Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. It was the first thing I was like, all right, here we go.
Yep. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and my brain was just thinking about all these crazy things. I'm like, oh, so overwhelmed. There's like 100 things to think about. I was like, hey, George, I'm thinking about these and these and these and this is like on top of my mind and I'm aware of it. I just need to like say it out loud. And then like after the gym, when we were talking about some things, we're sitting at coffee and George just went, hey, I just need to let you know that you're actually just doing a really good job. And I was like, oh, I am, aren't I?
Yeah.
Like trying so hard, especially as a business owner, when you try to like manage 100 different things and provide value and then prioritize yourself and all these things. It's just like I thought it was crazy and I thought it was pretty like high level in terms of emotionally what you have to embrace and embody and carry with you. And then someone just saying, you know, you're actually doing a good job with everything. You're like, oh my goodness, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's why I think like our dynamic is really good because we have been friends for so long. And like I said at the start, like I do see you through like a different lens. Like you're still just Corey, my friend. And not to like downplay anything, but like at the core of everything, like we're really, really, really good friends. And I'm really clammy as well. It's hot in here. But yeah, we're really, really good friends. So I kind of like, I know when to call you out or when to just say like, hey man, you're doing this, or hey, like this is really good, by the way. You know what I mean? Like I know you're stressed about this, money things or like financial business things and all this crazy stuff that you know. But if you just took like 5 seconds to just be like, you know what I mean? Just stop and like sit in it for a sec. So I pride myself on like how well I know you and like the business relationship that we have on top of the friendship.
You come in and kick my ass sometimes.
Hulk smash your
testicles. Boom! Hulk smash them bad boys.
Corey's like favorite thing to say at the moment.
Oh yeah, I've been telling everybody. I'm like, oh, we've been coming in like Thor's hammer at the moment with people, and it's been amazing to see like just the transformation and journeys we had. Like everyone's just crying everywhere about or achieving massive things, having huge breakthroughs. And
what are some examples? You don't have to name names, but like what's something that's like really stood out to you from, because you do like one-on-one stuff, and for a lot of the podcasting audience, people might not actually know like how much one-on-one coaching you do.
Most of my stuff's one-on-one.
Yeah, most of your stuff is one-on-one. So what is that like, and what are the different relationships like to navigate, and how do you have to show up differently with different energies to certain people? Like, how do you handle all of that?
It's really cool. So yeah, recently, like I've had a couple of my own clients kick my ass. And this comes from things like where we haven't labeled expectations, haven't been created. So I've got my online business manager at the moment going through and creating like a thing of like specific expectations. Because sometimes people be like, oh, you haven't got back to me for 2 days. And I'm like, it's the weekend. But then we haven't like clarified things over the weekend. And so I was like, okay. And then like having to go through like processes like, sorry, I didn't communicate these expectations or anything else or whatever it is. Like, let's get into it. Like let's go. But essentially like that would be like the harder side of it. And that's like one thing, but all of the amazing things is just there as well. So yeah, I just catch up with people. We just have Zoom calls and we talk a lot via WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that what it looks like? It looks like just regular calls and then like a pretty much a constant
so I'll do like
thread.
I'll do like 4 to 7 calls a week sometimes. Yeah, 4 to 7 calls of like one-on-one coaching a week. So it does take up a lot of 4 to 6. I would say 4 to 6 calls a week. But at its most intense. So it's pretty full on emotionally because you got to hold a lot, and it hasn't been until recently when I like upgraded my emotional tank that I've been like, oh, I'm here to feel emotions, and I can. Because sometimes holding space with people, there's triggers and other things come up, and you get like afraid of almost feeling emotions. And I had a certain amount of emotional capacity, which I thought was huge, but recently I've just like completely shifted it. So when I'm talking to people, we can talk about the down and dirty stuff. We can talk about all the trauma stuff. We can talk about the success stuff. We can talk about literally anything, and I'll push people through to feel it to the point where we're like literally both crying, or have people yelling and screaming on their camera, and I'm like yelling and screaming back, putting things out. And I've been using my acting skills a lot more in my one-on-ones to reflect stuff with people. One of my greatest strengths has been able to put myself in someone else's shoes. And because I analyze people, I know all the philosophy, I know all the archetypes I studied, so much about people and their minds and their characteristics and how they work. One thing that I like to do is if there's someone in there, and I've like taught professionally, performance conversations training in like the corporate world, and then learnt my own stuff with it, practice it in relationships, and then brought it into one-on-one coaching. So what I'll do is I'll talk about someone to say it's like their parents, it's like a relationship in there that's holding them back from business success. And they're like, oh, I can't get this business success. I'll create room for business success because I'm still holding on to this shit from my parents. And why are they doing this? And why having all these questions? The parent one comes up actually really regularly. And what I'll do is I'll just like help me understand like your parent, where they're at, what position they're in. And then I'm like, okay, like this is pretty easy. We can get it within like 5-10 minutes. I'm like, okay, so this is roughly what your parent would say. And then I just act them out and I'd act their parent to them. All right, so you're in this scenario. What are you going to do? Boom, put it onto them. And they're like,
yeah, it's really confronting when you do stuff like that. You do it to me and I'm like, whoa, this is like a real thing I have to process because it feels like a real conversation I need to have with someone.
Yeah.
And
but it gets you ready.
It's a crazy skill. Yeah, it does get you ready. Like
I've
gotten a lot of clarity from stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can understand how it works.
Yeah. And you go, oh, and then you can see something from someone else's perception, because usually when there's like a stress or a trigger there or something's coming up, what happens is it's hard to hear what someone's actually saying, and your body just processes things differently. Majority of the time, which I figured out recently, what I'm working a lot on at the moment is anger with all my clients, because it's like, well, you're angry, and I just believe anger is just passion suppressed, and they're angry at something, and because they get angry, they can't communicate their trigger, because through no history of time have we ever been taught how to like process aggression. And I was in like a personal development workshop where I screamed at like 70 people with just let my aggression out. And it was so messy. However, it worked. And it was all out of love. And I had this crazy conversation, George, with this older gentleman. He was like 61 years old, and he has an MBA in business and leadership.
What's an MBA?
And so an MBA is a Masters of Business Admin, something like that. I can't remember, but it's like a Masters in Business degree. MBA, it's like highly recognized around the world.
MBA.
Yeah, MBA. Yeah, so Masters Business. I can't remember the last A word. Anal. Masters Business Anal. No, it wasn't. You weren't ready for that. Oh, hang on a minute.
We turned full metalhead again this
Oh
year.
my God.
You're out of control, dude. You're literally out of control. I have a question I need to ask you, which will actually keep the conversation flowing after your point.
After this? All right, so I'll quickly tell the story. So I was at the end of this conversation, and essentially we were tasked to over the weekend to raise over $25,000 for a charity that we chose. We got nowhere. It was the second day. It was like 2:00 and we had until 5 p.m. the next day to show the money that we had. And everyone was organizing things and planning things. And there was so much planning and organizing. And my task was to sit down and shut up for the weekend. Because
someone challenged you to do that.
Yeah, because I don't know how to I don't know how to be a student. I can just lead. Like I was like, who am I when I'm not leading and coaching? I don't freaking know. So I was stepping back. It was really difficult. And anyway, I was stepping back and I was like, man, I've stepped back long enough. And this thing's coming up right here. And they're like, lead when you know how to lead. And my fucking heart at one stage, because nothing was happening. It was a very passionate thing. Like, so it was all about like raising mental health for like boys and teaching them how to use aggression, all these other things, because suicide is huge. Like domestic violence is huge. So let's prevent those things. And I've had 2 of my like best friends like hang themselves. So it was very close to my heart. And I was like sitting down, we're doing like a meditation, like a grounding exercise, and everyone was talking like, remember one of the women was saying, like, I love her, but she was like, we need to plan a cohesive plan. I'm like, oh, that sounds like me talking about those things. And I was like, fuck the plan. And I just jumped up and I just started, my heart was beating in my chest so fast. I was getting so angry with this grounding exercise and tears were like coming down my face. And I was just like, one of the coaches and facilitators said, everyone here's been such a good boy and a good girl. Don't be afraid to be the fucking bad guy. Because like in other workshops, people like face to face, like almost wanted to fight each other sometimes. It's like that comes up, but we need to know how to communicate and lead around those things. And I just went, fuck this. And I just went like screaming at everyone. I was like, what the fuck are we doing? And people have money bullshit. I'm like, this is just $500 each for all of us. But I'm like, if we can fucking ask money and all this stuff, you can make $500. You can make it. We can empower you to get there. We've got these fucking kids here doing these things. I'm not doing fucking anything. I just let all this anger and aggression out and went nuts. And like, the girls immediately started crying everywhere. They were like, oh. And I was like, oh, I felt so bad, but I just like kept going because I had to let it out. Then when I was finished, I was like, and one of the big guys at the back come and grabbed my back and was like, what Corey means is this, and this. And then I went up to the women, it was quite confronting, who were crying because like that aggression, they're not used to it. And it's a lot of energy, especially coming from a big guy like me. And I just looked at them in their eyes and be like, I'm holding you here and I apologize, but we're going to get through this. We're a team. And until they stop crying, we just stare at each other in the face. Like one girl at a time. We'd walk up straight up to them and we'd stare. And I'm not kidding, George, when people go, whoa, that's hectic and intense if you listen to the story. But every single person in that room, every single person come up to me and hugged me afterwards and said thank you. Every single one. Anger is just passion suppressed.
Yeah, is that when it like clicked for you? Were you like,
clicked.
Whoa, anger is so powerful?
And we talked about it. I was like shaking afterwards and everyone was just loving me. And they're like, you know what, Corey, I just want to thank you. That's exactly what I was feeling. I was like, oh, thank God. And they were like, that's exactly what I was feeling. And I wish I had have got up and said something like that, but I couldn't have because that scared me too much. And people were like, oh, thank you for saying that. I could never say that thing. And hell yeah, I'm not kidding. Within 2 hours, we'd raised like $5,000.
Crazy, eh?
$5,000. And we were helping, everyone was working as a team together to raise each other up. I taught so many people how to make money. And I was like, I fucking love helping people make money. Like it's so good watching people just overcome these shifts in their brain. It's just like, yeah, you can literally just ask and receive and say thank you. You know what I mean? Comes back to that. So that was insane. So talking about the anger and aggression and it, like all of this, because I've just had all this anger that's been suppressed my life. And I've been like, I can use this and channel it. Yeah. Straight away, we jumped on a call the next day and just I was fucking having you scream on the phone. We're using all of this passion for our love for our business and our community. And I've just been unlocking and just seeing it in people so easily because I had a lot of masks come off. Just seeing them, I'm like, whoa, you're angry. We need to let this out. And there's some passion here. So when it comes to talking beforehand, relationships with people's parents or my one-on-one coaches, when we're talking about things, essentially it's like, well, you're only triggered because your anger is being suppressed and it's showing up in boredom, sarcasm, passive aggressiveness. It's showing up in withdrawing and all these different things, or like frustration at someone purely because you can't get here. So let's put yourself in a situation where I'm going to trigger you and now you have to communicate to me with your passion instead of your aggression. And then I could put myself into your shoes and explain an example of like a positive example, what it would look like. And then the person goes, oh, wow, it was actually that easy. The same thing when I help people make money. Like, oh, it's that easy. And you're like, yeah, it's all in here. You understand a couple of tools, you make a couple of shifts, boom, everything's changed. So that's one thing that I've been working on with a lot of one-on-ones and I've been attacking them. But mostly what it looks like is we get really clear on people's goals. Like it's so simple, right? So simple. We get really clear on their goals, but it actually takes a while to figure out what they truly want because people don't feel worthy enough of what they truly want. We get really clear on what they truly, truly want. And there's some tools and exercises to get there. And then I use a lot of old school myth and philosophy and putting people in a situation like, here's a challenge for you. And we've got to complete this. Let's see what happens. give people real world challenges where they got to go out and do something. And then we talk about what we've learned in our philosophy or the triggers, whatever it is, and figure out in the real world what's happened. What are the patterns and the disconnect? And then how can we break them and shift them to create something new? And when we create something new, that's when big things happen. That's like when Will went from 20K to 300K months. So Sam expanded. Like I literally yesterday was so overwhelming, guys. Everyone, I had like one of my clients delivered me flowers and she sent me those and she's like,
it's funny how it all happens at once, eh?
All happens at once. And then you gave me the compliments. And then I had someone else gave me some compliments, I think on Instagram or whatever it was. And then I had an old client, my good friend Sam, messaged me and he was like, dude, I just want to let you know that, you know, it's been like a year since we've coached together, but those 2 years that I worked with you have completely changed my life. And I have the best family, I have the best business, and I have the best network I could ever ask for. I'm like,
it's crazy, hey?
So yeah, there's a lot there. I could get more into the one-on-ones, but I'm just going to leave it at that point because I think the community is more exciting, or some stories that I've got will probably be more exciting. And then you did have a question.
No, whatever. Well, I haven't heard you talk about that ever on the podcast.
Oh, really?
That's good.
Oh, see?
Well, not that directly. Maybe you have. Whatever. It's good. It's good just listening. And that's something that I've learned as well over the last year. Like Corey and I, we were talking about, Corey was asking me, like, what can we celebrate from the last year of working together when we were at dinner last night? And it's hard for me to like pinpoint things because there's been so much, but I think one of them is just all the residual personal development I've done from like editing and from listening to everything 100 times and listening to all the mistakes that you make on the camera and just all the weird stuff. Like Corey will touch his nose constantly and then talk, and I have to try and edit that to make it look professional. And it's just like, stop touching your nose. So it's been amazing being here this week to like really coach him through making some content, which has been fun. But something I did want to ask was, you mentioned study in there and like that you've studied all these things and you've done all of that. What does that look like moving forward? Because like you've been saying a couple of times, like, I'm going to flick the switch soon after I, for lack of a better term, recover from these couple of weeks of personal development where my heart got cracked open and I'm all this like soppy wet sock vibes where I'm just like soaking life in and all this stuff. When that switch flicks and you do start studying again, what is that going to look like for you?
Oh, interesting.
And like, what direction do you want to take it, and what do you think you need to learn most from like maybe the next, let's just say next 2 or 3 months of study? What are you going to learn next?
Well, I always study, but it's just how much I'd like to study. Sometimes I like to, like, my best study comes from getting like a big A3 pen and pad of paper, and I go through this process called musings. Me and Will Giles are the same as musings, and I'll just go through. I'm burping so much right now
because you just sculled whatever that was.
Yeah, killer. Yeah, mushroom bone broth, best of the bones, killer. Corey 12, guys. You get the discount. Wow. So, yeah, like I like to spend like and go through, like sit down, have intentional time, and just like scribble all these things out and like put parts in connection with my brains because I like reading old school philosophy books. It's just, he's right up my alley. Friedrich Nietzsche, all the old school stuff, because it hasn't been touched by anyone new. And all the new stuff has been, I think, within the world, with all the studies and everything, it's sort of gone through filters or has been made for marketing purposes, or like there's processes for stuff. When old school philosophy is just like, this is just core.
So where the philosophy turns down the road of marketing and being tailored for the modern world, you kind of go the other way.
Well, I like learning all the stuff. Yeah. I like learning it and try to take it in. However, sometimes like learning it all, if people don't understand it, the hard part is making it relevant to the new world. So you have to learn modern personal development, which I've always done, but not as hardcore as well.
Wherever your hierarchy is.
Yeah.
It's like you change the hierarchy because it didn't apply to the modern world.
Yeah, it didn't apply. So I changed it. So it's like, how do we change these things and come in? And a lot of it, I think, is like actually in-person work, to be honest, more of like who you are and like changing yourself and putting yourself in, you know, uncomfortable positions to learn all those things I was talking about beforehand. Like the next level event, we're going to come in and Hulk smash testicles everywhere. It's going to be the best. So yeah, I think learning some of the modern stuff has been really good because it's like the link between, now I can link this old school stuff here as well. So I think a lot of my new study is going to be actually, as a recommended from my mentor, is going to be more around leadership and more around embodiment and more around coaching. Because if I want to be the world's best personal development coach, I'm going to have to learn how to be a really good coach. And I've trusted my acting skills and trusted all these other things beforehand and like been in it learning and been having like mentors and other people sort of help me out a little bit, but nothing is as more intense. So I've actually been, instead of investing into books as much, the next period is also going to be a lot of just receiving coaching myself. I've had mentors and stuff, but I've gone hard into it, which is great. Yeah, I found it a while. Nice shot. George just flicked the shit out of a fly. That was killer.
He was dead. He was tired.
Yeah. So I'm just investing in a few things, personal development. So I actually have to do the work myself, which is awesome, but like really hardcore cool work. And then just literally just blocking out like my routine, just like an hour or two a day, just to like literally study. And at the moment I'm in a season of playing with least effort. So, and it's just come true. So I was like, okay, leading from the heart is something that I used to do, lost it for a little while to build a business because I needed that robotic stuff to get things done. And then it like and I've always been like pretty heart led, even still it was robotic. I was still like, it's still from here, a good place. But it's like as a mask come up.
Never cold. You know what I mean? Like never that robotic where it was like, you weren't Corey. It was just more intense.
Yeah. And I feel like my heart's like bigger than the world and it was just like a bit of a rock for a bit. But yeah, cracked open. And now with this least effort, it's like, well, how do I achieve my goals and have everything happen and give love to everyone else whilst also essentially doing nothing? Like, let's do the least amount of work possible and still get like the best results, which is really cool because I used to spend so much time just like looking at everything, blah, 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 blah. And with this least effort, you might think, you're doing nothing. It's like, no. The key there is empowering other people with your heart, right? Consistently trying to make yourself redundant. And I've worked with leaders for this. Like my first clients were millionaires who jumped on and like wanted to work with me. I love saying that, by the way. It's really cool. It's like, hey, my first client, like proper client, was like a multimillionaire, 22 years old, come in, and then like all the rest of them were as well. They come in, let's help me do some stuff. So that was sick.
That's cool.
So it's helping them like understand themselves so that they could do that. And I was like, well, it's definitely time for me to do that. I've done it in other areas, but like, let's lean into it. Let's lean into the gym. And it's been so easy, to be honest. Like with everything that's happening, just like empowering people, moving things around. It's like, cool, because we're here, it comes so easy and we can see what needs to happen. Like this is the best. So that's the season. And what study looks like is literally just, it's blocking out time to actually write things down and figure them out before I place them. Like, I don't know if anyone knows this, but my study process is like this, right? I'll read a book, take me 6 months to read it. I'll underline everything in the book and I'll write out notes in like just A4 pages of books.
Yeah.
And then I'll take those books and then I'll get my A3 pads of paper and I'll dissect everything from that book that I learned that I thought was really powerful. And then I'll type that entire thing up and then I'll create some slides out of it for the things that I thought were really powerful.
Yeah, so you end up teaching it, which makes you learn it more.
Yeah, there's 2 years I've been working on one book.
Yeah.
To teach.
Crazy.
Yeah, 2 years I've been writing out stuff.
So good, yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, it gets away from that narrative that people say like, he's just regurgitating things that other people were saying or things that I've heard in the past, or like he's just saying stuff that other people can do. Like you can learn this yourself if you read the books. It's like, newsflash, you probably can't.
And you know what's crazy? Because at that same time, I also feel like a fraud.
Wow. We don't have to.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
I know. But still, you come in, you learn all these things, and like, part of other people's programs, one of Felicity Morgan's, and we had like, she was putting some things in there. I've had to write some stuff out, like of how you feel around, I can't remember what it was. And I was like, I feel like a fraud all the time. And I'm like, even though I try so hard not to be. I was like, well, what am I running away from there?
Yeah, I can relate to that with like the shift that I've had in career and everything over this last year and like working from anywhere and like living a pretty like incredible lifestyle. Like if you tell people when you say it out loud, it's like, they're like, whoa, that's really cool, man. You get to like fly around and your wife lives where and you live where and you go to the Gold Coast for work. Like what? Doesn't look like you're working. You're at Slipknot on the weekend. And like, it's like, no, this is our lifestyle now. So it's really crazy. And I do get that feeling of like fraud's like a bit intense. Like I don't really like that word.
Imposter.
Yeah, imposter. Like fraud just sounds like criminal. Like, I'm not a criminal, but like I feel like a criminal maybe that I get to live this incredible life and like stepping into that. And you and Chloe always say to me like when we're talking about the future or we're talking about goals, and then you guys are like, oh yeah, don't worry, like all that's coming. And I'm just like, whoa, like I have to really like step into it. And I feel like I've learned. I feel like I learn like 3 months worth of stuff in the 1 week I get to spend with you when I come up here. You know what I mean? And it's like, just from being around you guys and living this like life of opportunity and freedom and all that, it's crazy, man. And I'm like so blessed to have it. It's really intense.
You've been owning yourself big time.
Yeah, and I've been trying to as well. So I've been like actively trying to under like your unsolicited life advice sometimes, and I just I'm so resistant initially because that's like how I've been forever. Like you tell me to do something, you're like if anyone told me to do anything, like it just conditioned my whole life to be like, shut up. Like, the sky's not blue. You can't tell me it's blue. You know what I mean? Like just like real obvious stuff, and you just have this wall that comes up. But now I can like recognize that, take however long it is, and the next day I'll be like, oh yeah, what you said the other day like really landed. Just took 48 hours to land. Whereas now that time's getting shorter and shorter, and you'll tell me something, or we'll just have a conversation. You might just think it's like blasé as, and I'm just sitting in the corner like, whoa, I'm learning so much right now. Like it's really, really cool.
I love that. I didn't know that. Actually, if you're sitting there and just taking it in, that's cool.
But I just always feel this crazy energy after I'm hanging out with you, and I know you're always like, oh, you got to move up here, you got to move up here, which, you know, I might do one day or might have a stint or whatever it is. But like at my core, I like my own space. So when I come up here, I get to like learn so much, live this crazy life. And I still get to live that life everywhere. But yeah, I leave these ones and I'm like, I am like unstoppable. It's wild.
Yeah, it's like we're so free and we can express ourselves however we like. And that's like the best thing ever. And, you know, doing that, as I mentioned, like a real good leader, the goal is to just be able to walk into a room and have people inspired. And you do that by not dimming your light at all and just completely expressing yourself, which what you've been feeling guilty for, like being around your friends and family, like, hey, I get to do everything that I've wanted. And I don't have anyone telling me to do anything. Like, really? Like, there's no one telling me to do anything.
No way, man.
Can't shit at this time, whatever it is. Like, hell no. All the other stuff. Plus, like, it was really cool actually talking to George last night because he was like, you know, besides, you know, having my lifestyle of living on my laptop and just traveling around doing what I want, he's like, my relationship's amazing. My health's amazing. My friendships are amazing. He's like, I'm literally helping people and like strongest person around everyone. Like, hell yes.
Yeah, it makes me emotional as hell.
You are.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you're like real grounded and really strong and like you are the rock for people, man.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like all your friends and your family. Your partner. Yeah, you're the rock, bro. Take it in. You're allowed to feel that. It's good.
Oh, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm a good well up crier. I won't like fully execute on the but like
Is that just leak?
Yeah, I leak. Like being in 2 weddings in 2 weeks, like earlier this year, just leaking so much. People getting married. Like weddings are the best, man. Like they're so good. When you see like your best friend or like brother-in-law Geordie getting married, so good.
Fills you up, eh?
Yeah. Thank you for saying all that, man.
Oh, well, it's
Crazy.
easily noticed. And it's like, this is a lot of weight to bear as well because you can't like unlearn. Well, you can unlearn what you know, but there's some things that when you do know, especially personal development, you see people in different light. And you know, we talked about last night, like we can like really see you for you.
Yeah. I'll be hanging around some like circles or friends of friends or something like that, and I can look at them and just be like, "You are just a like boy in a man's body," and like like you said, you can't unsee it sometimes. And I'm not always like approaching them situations like, oh, I know everything, listen to me, you should do this. Like, I don't tell anyone what to do really. Like I do my best not to tell everyone what to do because sometimes like my thing is like if you're not coming with me then it really like frustrates me and I get annoyed when people aren't doing what I'm doing, and I've always been like that. And learning that it doesn't actually matter, like I can't let that restrict me has been like hard. But yeah, you see people through a different lens, and you see them for who they are, and like even like the really positive ones like Kettle, you know what I mean? Like you see him for who he is, like his energy is incredible, his heart's so big, he's just a giver and he's just a big cuddly teddy bear.
Kettle's my housemate, by the way.
Yeah, Kettle's, shout out Kettle. Yeah, you see people for who they are, and like I see my best friends like Mitch, you know, through like a different lens now. Like I would be so frustrated he wouldn't come to the gym with me or he wouldn't run with me, but now I'm like, this guy's like my best friend and he has been for 25 years. Like that's all he needs to be. You know what I mean? Like,
love him for that.
Just love him for that. And just having a lot of that, a lot of learning like that. And even with Nicole, you know, like my wife, like, am I breathing so hard?
No, I was just saying it's sort of like those moments when you're like, oh
right.
And you know, when you talk to someone or you're having this realization about them, then you're like, oh, I can just relax.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And similar things with Nicole when I come back from like a weekend here or a week here. I'm saying all this crazy stuff and it's like too much for her to process all at once. Like understanding that and appreciating that, and then just like drip feeding how like much I've been growing and how it's helped us and all that kind of stuff is just, it's insane.
Nice. What have you learned?
Oh, just so that you can ask for like whatever you want from the people that love you, especially like I'm married, you know what I mean? Like, this is like the most amount of love you can give to someone, I reckon. And like committing to each other and her taking your name. Like it's all a big deal. It's not just like a ring on a finger. It's a lot. And, you know, like I'm someone that I need to know when people are proud of me. Like I live and I thrive off like pride. You know what I mean? Like when I was competing, like thinking of mum and dad, how proud they would have been of me when I was on the stage. I was just like, I remember being backstage, I was like almost crying because I was like so just like filled with that like proud feeling. It's so weird. And yeah, I just need to hear that from people. So I like literally asked Nicole like 6 months ago, I was like, you need to tell me that you're proud of me. And she does. And I'm just like, and it, like at the start of my marathon, when I ran in 2020, I was like crying on the start line because I was like, wow, everyone would be so proud of me and I haven't even ran it yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. How wild is that?
Yeah. It's cool knowing it though, and then actually knowing what you need to hear and then asking for it. It's like, that's the mature things where you're like more evolving into the man, out of the boy suit and into the man.
Yeah, you can ask for whatever you want. Yeah. Anyone that's listening.
Yeah.
Especially all my friends and stuff. Like just ask for it. Like if you need to hear something from people that love you, just ask for it. And if they're not willing to say it, ask for it again. Just keep until you get what you want, you know what I mean? Not like silly things, but like things that actually mean something to you. Like I'm proud of you, or like I love you, or you look good, or just stuff that actually helps.
Yeah. And it's like actually so simple. You can do it. And it's crazy when you see people as well, like if you see like a boy in a man's body or whatever, so you start seeing people for who they really are. For me, there's no judgment. I just feel like, oh my goodness, I just want to love this person. And I love them for where they're at and they're on their journey. And eventually, like, if they move some things around, they're going to get there. Otherwise, life maybe just keep hitting them on the head until they get there. But that's also their journey as well. And sometimes it frustrates you because you're like, if only you could see how green the grass is when you change your perception. Sort of like putting filters on, like take the sunglasses off and look at the world. Like remove the filters. And it's all in here. I said it a couple of times, but it's all in here. And here. Pa! And when they do, it's like amazing. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yes. Well, any other questions?
No, I had the study one on my mind for so long, so I didn't really want to.
Yeah, all good. I do remember one story which I thought was pretty cool. And it was about my dad.
Go. Let's do a closing story about Kev. Shout out Kev.
So shout out Kev. He's the best. Well, it was actually pretty cool. It was just like, this is shout out to all the guys out there who really want to get to the next level in their life. If they've been in a position where they felt like in their bones they were destined for something greater, and you're like, you know what, I wasn't destined for this job or working in this way, in this capacity. I've always been destined for something greater, and I've always tried my hardest, but for some reason, I'm not living up to my own expectations. This one's for you guys specifically. And a lot of stuff comes down from parents, mums or dads, whether they've been around or not, but there's a majority of people who do, you know, actually have parents for you guys, and they have some sort of influence or sway in your life. And understanding that you got to break the tires. I have like 2 operations that are cool in my coaching. Like we've got operation 1, bash your dad, and the other one's kill your mum. So there's these 2 things that we go through.
Sounds hectic.
Sounds hectic, but it's not as hectic as you want. We're just breaking tires with them and rebuilding. And essentially, like with my old man, I remember just having these moments where I'm like, you know what, I'm going out and sending it. I need to do these things, you know, for my life. And I didn't realize that he'd put like a curse on me. And I use this old school mythology terms, by the way, guys, it's not legit. It's just how I'm telling the story. Like he didn't actually put a curse on me, but he put a curse on me for a while. And essentially like that was his expectations and all these other things to work really hard and follow some sort of footsteps in him, because he achieved everything that he got from working his fucking ass off. Like I don't know anyone that's worked hard as my dad. And I remember I got into like a corporate job, and I was there and I was like making, I don't know, it was like $85,000 a year or something. And I was like crushing it in there, and I was working up my way through the ranks, and I hated it, and I was competing. It was for paying for things. And there were some parts that I enjoyed because I was learning all this stuff. I was like, wow, I'm learning all these amazing things here. But he was so scared. I was like, oh, I'm going to quit that and just start my own thing, and I'm putting all my money into it. And he was like, why are you doing that? And I was basically like, fuck you and fuck off. Like, don't give me any advice for this. Even though you got your business and your stuff, like no way in hell I'm not taking your bullshit from that. In the nicest way. I didn't actually tell him that, but that was like what I felt. I was like, oh, hell no. And kind of communicated it nicely. And then, I went out and he was shit scared. I didn't even know how scared he was. Like, he was so nervous, he was saying. And I had one of my clients, Joey, he come up to the Gold Coast, and there was, I can't remember what we were doing. We were competing that weekend. He competed at WBFF with me when I had my first pro show. He was competing. And we were just chatting, and he was telling the story with dad because Joey had a similar thing when his dad had a business and was like, here, I want you to have the business. He was like, no, I need to go out my own hero's journey and prove to myself that I've got what it takes. And dad was giving Joey like some advice on it. He was like, you know, Corey did that. And he went out and I was so scared of him to start his business. But you know what? He went out there and he proved me wrong. Joey, he proved me wrong. And that has allowed dad and I to come so much closer because he respects me as a man instead of having this curse of me as, oh, you're my little boy. So the way that he likes to treat me as a dad now, which I do let him because there's like boundaries around those things, is he just loves paying for shit. He's got the money and he was just like, oh, you know, I remember once I was like, oh, dad, don't worry about this, I'll pay for it. And he's like, oh, let me be a dad. And it clicked and I was like, I'm just going to receive. If dad wants to pay things, I'm going to say, yes, thank you so much, you're the best, and give him a big cuddle.
Yeah.
So, and it was funny, but now we have this different relationship and I have this new permission and this new manhood and this new sense of like king feeling of like, yeah, I transcended my dad. Like, and I'm way further than you in terms of, you know, where I'm at with my age and how I am mentally and physically and how I show up. And it gives you this sense of self-dominance and power as a man. Like, I'm literally unstoppable. So the thing here is for people to understand is part of your journey is transcending your parents. And if your parents have some sort of tie or sway over you, you can break it and then saturate them with love in order to really transcend your life. And I wouldn't have been able to get where I am with all the things that we're doing or where we are. Like, we wouldn't be here if I literally hadn't have had that conscious attitude to be like, I'm going to overcome my dad and separate the ties and we're going to reconnect together or something else. So I thought that was really powerful. So the people out there, who want to get to that next level is just acknowledging that could be a roadblock and working on it. And if you're interested, you do need some help, like reach out to me and George. We can probably help you out with that. We do a lot of stuff.
Cheeky plug at the end.
Cheeky plug at the end.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, well, that was cool. Anything else? Real quick question. Anything else you think would be useful for people? Like if you wanted to humanize me.
Really humanize you. Why do you put your fingers in all the jars?
I got this real bad habit for
Or he just like does everything with his hands. Like he loves food so much, so he just has to be like in it with his hands and cooking with his hands and stuff.
Just picking everything up and I get his dirty fingers.
How good was last night though? Like all that incredible food.
Oh,
and
man.
Me and you would have both just been like having all this stuff. No, man. Just, yeah. I think people need to listen to your podcast like more than once because there's so much in it. And like listen to that story about Kev more than once probably because it'll really impact you and make you look at your relationship with not only your parents in a different way. Yeah. That your relationships or how you perceive your relationships might be holding you back right now. You know what I mean? It might be like limiting you from stepping into the best version of you. Yeah, I've had literally some people yesterday come onto the call with me and we just did like a call and I was just like asking questions about how he thought about the program feedback call. He was like, well, firstly, I come in for business advice and I wanted to grow my business. And he was like, I just want to say, firstly, I doubled my business. Just by the way, bro, since I've been in the program, I have literally doubled my business. But it's like, that wasn't the main thing that I even got out of it. He's like, my health has absolutely skyrocketed. And he's a PT. And he's like, my relationships have skyrocketed. Look at him. I'm like, dude, why are you so sexy on the camera right now? He's like, because I've been fucking doing everything. Yeah, sleeping right, eating right,
sleeping right, eating right, training. But he has a why and he understands why. And he's got these new standards, expectations for himself. And he's like, yes, I'm going to own up and goddamn crush these things, which I thought was amazing. But part of that process, what I want to mention just to encapsulate that story I said is prove your parents wrong. Like prove them wrong. Whatever their expectations and stuff are, and don't feel guilty for it. Prove them the hell wrong. And they will, like, it's literally part of their internal DNA as your parents to literally keep you safe. And they act like a guardian to a gate of getting to the next level. And you have to like slay that guardian in order to get through. And to do that, you have to literally prove them wrong. Otherwise, they'll keep resisting, keep pushing it down. No, you can't do this, or maybe you should be doing this other thing. And no, there's nothing here. And why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? Blah, 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 blah. And until you absolutely crush it and you're like, there's the proof, bitch. Yeah. Then they're like...
That's if that's specifically showing up in your life. Like some people's parents are like...
Yeah.
Like my parents. They're just...
Yeah.
Pushing me to do more. They're not holding me back. They're pushing the other way and always have, which I've been blessed with. I know not everyone is, but if that is showing up for you and you feel that resistance, that's when that all applies.
I'd still challenge that though. I'd get in a little bit deeper. and be like, okay, well, even if like, that's the case and they are pushing you, it's like, well, how could you still prove them wrong?
Oh yeah, no,
you know what I mean? How
100%.
could they say, oh, you could do this, and everyone be like, I'm gonna do more than that.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
It's like prove them wrong, but prove yourself right as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the core of it, I think.
Yeah,
like because knowing that you can, like what you've been saying a few times, and you've said it twice on here already, or maybe once. Like if you feel it in your bones that you're not meant to be doing what you're doing, like if you feel it in your core, like for me, for example, speaking from experience, like 10 years in warehousing, 5 years in the same warehouse, like tricking myself at the start, like, oh, this is good, this is crazy money for what I do, like untrained work and all this stuff. Like, yeah, it's not what I wanted to do, and it took me 5 years to realize, you know what I mean? And you can feel it. You can feel it when you come home and you're like, oh, I have to go back to work tomorrow, and you're distracting yourself and playing video games and all this stuff. Like,
I didn't realize how many hours of video games you played, and it was crazy. George walking with me. Can you just quickly tell the story of you working with us and then what you did for like, end up selling all your game stuff and like the amount of hours that you played, and you were just like, good fucking buy. That was a crazy apotheosis.
That is crazy. And like I've been a computer gamer since like 2013, really. So like, what's that, 10 years? Bought and built my first computer when I went to uni, started uni the first time. And I was doing like an animation course. So I was like, oh, I need this computer. So I built it. And then my friends were playing this video game. And I was like, oh, I might start playing that. Took over my whole life pretty much. 6-7 hours a night playing. And it's so fun when you're in it because you're hanging out with your mates virtually. Oh, you're playing these like addictive dopamine games. And like it's all you want to do. You just want to level up. You want to grow in that. And that just kind of continued for a while. And it's not all negative because in a certain like time in your life, like gaming isn't actually that bad because you are, especially in this day and age, like you are still hanging out with your friends online. But it's when it starts to take over things. Like I dropped out of uni like 3 times. Like started a new course, just didn't do it. Started a new course, just didn't do it. Because one, it probably wasn't aligned with what I wanted to do. But like a lot of the skills I use now was when I have like compiled all those years of uni that I did actually show up and do, I'm using. But never fully followed through because I just got like too addicted to gaming or distracting or like running, you know what I mean? Like just distracting myself from like learning.
How many hours of gaming did you put in?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's, I don't know, like 1,100 hours of Rocket League alone. Like I really wanted to get good at that. I remember when uni break happened and I was working at Woolies and like we all played at Woolies, or a couple of my friends, shout out La Baguette, the French guy. I said to him, I was like, oh, in this 2 weeks, I'm going to learn like this specific skill in Rocket League. Like, that's all I'm going to do. Like, I'm just going to run, work, and play this video game as much as I can. Like, that's how into it I was. And yeah, played like 1,100 hours of that, like 700 hours of CSGO. It's crazy, man. Probably like 3,000 hours of games. Yeah.
And what was the moment when you chucked your computer out?
Well, it was when I've had a few moments where I've had to like resist people telling me that it's not good for me because, it's the same. It's like not even going to bed when Nicole goes to bed and not sleeping right because it's, I'll just play one more. It's 11:30. You got to get up at 4 to work in a warehouse for 8 hours. Well, that's unhealthy. And, Nicole would be like, oh, you're going to come to bed or whatever. And I'm like, oh, no, just like a couple more games kind of thing. And just like put up with it. But like, I'm like, fuck, that's pretty detrimental. And I think just starting to like work with you and realizing like what my purpose is and how I can actually make a difference in the world. Like once I started learning that and learning that once you appreciated me for like how good I was at things, like how good I am at editing and how good I can learn skills in graphic design and spend 6 or 7 hours on a computer productively a day, I was just like, I just kind of stopped. I just stopped playing and I would learn to say no to like Mitch and stuff. And he was like, oh, hey, do you want to play Rocket League? Or like we're all on Overwatch right now, or, we're playing Valorant and like we need a 4th player. And it's just like, I used to just be like, oh yeah, no worries. I'll just stop everything and turn my games on. But once I started saying no and the like, gaming PC just started collecting dust in the corner, I was like, yeah, I think it's time. It's time to like break that. And yeah, I just sold it like a couple months ago.
How'd you feel?
Oh, incredible. I was just like, finally, I got rid of it. And like, I barely play any video games at all now. Like whether it's like FIFA with the lads or like instead of watching a movie, especially because Nicole lives in Melbourne now, I can play like NBA for like half an hour a night. But then I'm like, I'm bored. I'm going to bed. I go to bed like 8:30, 9 o'clock most nights.
And that's because now you're on purpose.
Yeah.
And if anyone's listening to this podcast, we're literally
I
creating
see
a course.
what you're doing here, bro.
We're creating a course called On Purpose because we've done so much purpose work. And even our community leaders and the people in the community, whatever it is, there's so much stuff that comes up and we're like, literally, the more on purpose you actually are, or something keeps going wrong, like go back to your purpose, go back to your purpose. Yeah, we've got this purpose, a course coming up called On Purpose. And because we've realized within our community and how people, when they're not getting to that next level, most of them just focus back on like, just keep working on your purpose, man. I know guys, I don't know about them, but sometimes feel a bit weird. Like, oh, purpose, my meaning in life. Like, what are these things? I don't need to look for that.
That's
whatever
girly.
it is.
That's
Pleasure.
stupid,
Yeah,
bro.
but bro, you're missing the whole goddamn point. Of literally,
It's like, Corey, what's your purpose? Once you can
literally,
say it, like,
to challenge
powerfully.
to challenge and set the standard for all inspiring leaders. Bang.
Bang.
What's your purpose?
Love and lead with integrity and create in power.
Yeah. But the thing is, he worked for that. I worked for mine.
Oh,
We worked for it in such a way, like you can crystallize it and change it, but there's this meaning that it gives you that makes you so powerful.
Yeah, you said to me last time I did, well, you made me do, you helped me do Overcome the Chaos in like 2 days. You were like, stop working the next 16 hours of your like work time. I just want you to dedicate to the course. I want you to smash it.
Yeah.
I smashed it and then we worked on the purpose for like another day.
Well, I trusted the process. Like I've seen Overcome the Chaos change so many people's lives. And George was getting to a part where he came up to week 3 and I was like, look, I trust in this thing so much that
That's crazy,
fuck the work that you're currently doing. Like my whole business can shut down and I want you to finish the course because I know it's going to work.
That's one of your best qualities. And as a leader and like boss, for lack of a better term, to me, or like a mentor, is like you recognize that if I'm not in a position to show up as the best version of myself for like you and for the business, then like everything stops.
Everything get fucked, go to bed.
Yeah. It's like go to bed, or I'll hear it in Corey's voice when we're on the phone and you can kind of realize that, oh, George just needs to talk about something right now. And he would just ask me a bunch of questions and we'll talk about it. We'll hash it out. I'll go and think about it, come back and I'm sweet.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, oh, put that to the side. Like we've got this, and this to do. It's like, no, put this, and this to the side.
Yeah. You come first.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bo. I remember he sent me something because he's got online business manager. Bo's online business manager.
Shout out, Bo.
Shout out, Bo. But he messaged me once at like 3 a.m. and he sent me something and I said, never again. I said, I want you to instead meditate.
3 a.m.
3:30 in the morning, send me a report because he has insomnia. He's had insomnia his whole life for 12 years, 2 hours a night he's getting sleep. That's it, 1 to 2 hours. And he has all the drugs in the world for it. I said, Bo, enough. You're never sending me a report that late ever again. And I want you to be in bed at 8:30. Like, especially if you're going to work for me, you have to set the fucking standard at 8:30. And I don't care if you have to meditate for 9 hours, whatever it is. He doesn't have insomnia anymore. Human first.
on purpose.
On purpose, right? Because he's literally on purpose. So because we do so much purpose work, we're going to do a short course specifically on purpose.
Yeah, and we should say that it was we had like a really cool team meeting yesterday, and then Chloe came to it as well, and it was like her idea.
Yeah,
like, that's really cool.
We've credit to Chloe. She was like, "Oh man, the best thing for your business would literally be creating a course called On Purpose because you literally help people find their purpose and crush it." And everyone
And
on the team
all of
meeting
us
was
were
like,
just like,
yeah, thanks for seeing us.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Just one more thing on that for people who find their purpose. The women that I work with, the women that I talk to, are all like, I don't know what the hell happened to my partner, but we literally talked about purpose, or he said his purpose, and he completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so attracted to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kidding. It's real. So we're creating a course on it. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be next level. We're going to like do a deep dive into purpose, maybe opportunity to jump in the community afterwards. And we're going to leave it at that. Thank you for everyone for listening, coming on, subscribe if you like all the things.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
If you don't have a YouTube account right now on your phone, make a YouTube account and subscribe. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. Trying to grow that YouTube big time. We're going to put.
Thank you, man. Thank you for taking the time to do this because we need to go to the airport. I got a plane to catch.
We do. We're going to get George out of here. Thanks for listening, everyone, and goodbye. Peace. Oh, oh my God. Oh.